welcome to The Explainer. Today we are looking ahead, specifically to 2026, to try and understand the big forces that are completely reshaping one of the most critical parts of our lives, our mental health. Okay, let's get right into it. So just to give you a sense of the scale here, let's start with this number, 970 million. According to the World Health Organization, that's how many people were living with a mental disorder back in 2019. And think about it, since then, we've had a global pandemic, all kinds of economic uncertainty, and just incredibly rapid technological change. The pressure has only gone up. You know, it's pretty clear we're at a major turning point. The old ways of thinking about mental health, of treating it, of even just talking about it, they're giving way to this massive transformation. And we're not just talking about new therapies here. This is a fundamental shift in how we see the mind itself. To really get a handle on where things are going, we first need a new way to think about the present. Because the foundation for all the trends we're going to cover today is this more complete, more human model of what it actually means to be healthy. For the longest time, we were kind of stuck in what's called the biomedical model. It saw illness as just a physical problem, almost like a machine with a broken part. But now we're moving toward a much more holistic view, the biopsychosocial model. It basically argues that you just can't separate the mind from the body or a person from their environment. It's all connected. Now, this idea actually isn't new. It was proposed by a guy named George L. Engel way back in 1977. And it says our health is the result of this complex dance between three things. Our biology, so your genetics, your body's chemistry, our psychology, your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors, and our social world, your relationships, your culture, your job. So remember those three words, bio, psycho, social. Seriously, keep them in your head, because that framework is the key to unlocking everything we're about to talk about. It's the lens that's going to help us make sense of the three major trends defining mental health in 2026. All right, first up, Tech-Infused Care. This one dives right into that bio part of our model, but with a huge modern twist, technology. Tech is getting woven into mental health care, and it's a real double-edged sword. It offers access like we've never seen before, but it also brings some pretty unprecedented risks. So you've got experts like Guizhou Matthew raising a big red flag. People are turning to tools like ChatGPT for real, actual emotional support. And while the convenience is undeniable, it throws open these huge questions about privacy, clinical safety, and honestly, the risk of getting bad information. And this is where it gets really interesting. This data shows this huge disconnect. You see that while almost half of adults have used some kind of general AI for psychological support, less than 20% of them are using platforms that were actually built and tested for mental health. People are using everyday tools for incredibly sensitive needs. So here's the big question for 2026. How do we use the power of AI to give people that always-on care they clearly want, while making absolutely sure it's safe, private, and clinically sound? This is that biological and technological piece of our model playing out in real time. Okay, let's build on that and move to our second trend. This one shifts us into the psychological part of the puzzle, and it focuses on the place where a lot of us spend most of our time, work. The whole relationship between our jobs and our well-being is being completely rewritten. This quote points to something really subtle, but also really dangerous. It's this idea of quiet burnout. We're not talking about someone who's visibly exhausted anymore. The new challenge is figuring out who's struggling when they're actively trying to hide it, which can create this sort of invisible crisis. So what is quiet burnout? Well, it's when an employee is basically putting on a brave face. On the surface, they look totally fine. They're productive, they're hitting their deadlines, they seem engaged. But privately, they are just nearing a breaking point, running on fumes with nothing left in the tank. So what's the fix? Well, experts say companies need to get proactive. We're talking about training managers to ask about energy levels, not just about metrics. It means using anonymous surveys to catch problems early, promoting things like micro breaks during the day, and encouraging people to get help before things hit a crisis point. And this whole idea of a more nuanced workplace psychology also applies big time to neurodiversity. More companies are starting to get it that different brains have different needs, but the data here shows there's still a huge gap. Only 49% of neurodivergent employees say they feel fully supported at work. The bottom line is this: one-size-fits-all wellness programs are on their way out. The future is all about acknowledging that everyone's psychological needs are unique, and then building support systems that are actually flexible, inclusive, and proactive. All right, for our third and final trend, we're going to zoom all the way out. We've talked bio and psycho, now it's time for the social piece. This trend is all about how our inner lives are being shaped by these huge external forces, everything from politics to social media. Things that maybe used to feel like background noise, elections, social issues, are not background noise anymore. They are front and center, directly impacting our mental health every single day, whether we're at work or at home. And the research here just backs this up completely. Look at this. A staggering 68% of adults say elections are a major source of stress. And if you look at the digital world, almost half of teenagers say social media is having a negative impact on their peers. The social context is weighing on us heavily. And this brings us right back to that social pillar we talked about. It's proof that you just can't understand mental health in 2026 without looking at the immense pressure being created by our shared social and digital worlds. It's a collective thing. Okay, so we've got these three huge trends: tech-infused care, an evolving workplace, and this socially anxious world. What do we do with all this? Where do we go from here? Well, the World Health Organization actually has a really great, simple framework. It's a three-step approach. First, you prevent harm. That means managing risks in the environment. Second, you protect and promote well-being by giving people the tools they need. And third, you support people who are dealing with mental health conditions so they can really thrive. And here's the big takeaway from all of this. You can't tackle these issues in silos. The future of mental health is integrated. It requires us to see all the connections between our bodies and our tech, between our minds or our workplaces, and between how we feel inside and what's happening in the world outside. So that leaves us with a really big question, doesn't it? As our world gets more and more complex, how are we, all of us, going to choose to care for our minds? That's the question that's going to define not just 2026, but the entire decade to come. The challenges are real, but so is our growing understanding.